All right, whenever you're ready, brother.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. This is Mike from Off Grid Essential. This is CJ from Off Grid Essential, and we are going to go over today a video to complement our article that we'll link down below on your 7 essential hiking items. Myself, CJ, our families, we spend a lot of time in the outdoors. We've done a lot of hikes from overnights and solos in backcountry to quick day hikes in state parks and national parks here in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah. And through the course of these trips, we've learned a couple things that sometimes we learn the hard way, but we have learned what we do need and what we don't need. And sometimes we overdid it and sometimes we underdid it. And I think as we've come out of this, we've learned there's some essentials you definitely need at a minimum. So today we're going to go over those 7 essential items. And CJ will kick it off with the first one.
All right, so let's talk about footwear. So Mike really loves the, is it Vosk? Voske?
I don't know what it's called. Vosk,
Vask. Low quarter. Me personally, I rock the On Cloud Rock high tops. But for today, I recently picked up, as I've gotten deeper into trail running, the Nike Terra Kygers. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. And I also just recently tested these out on the Manitou Incline in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so far, super impressed. There will be a review that I'm going to be kicking out on these here pretty soon. So please go to our website and look for that if you're interested in a trail running shoe. I like lighter design feels. I have a kind of a sensitive foot, so to me, comfort is important. And the lightweight flexibility also, because I'm extremely flat-footed, and this kind of just helps with that. So over to you, Mike.
So the Vosk, I don't know where I first heard about this shoe. I think I was just researching good hiking shoes and I came across it. Super durable. It's a company that makes some really quality footwear, not just in the hiking section, but in the work boot section as well. But these for a summer hiking boot have been fantastic. They have excellent grip. I put a lot of miles on these. I'm actually, now that I'm looking at them, I can tell they're starting to wear, but it's been after a few years of some really heavy trails. I mean, we just got back from Jackson and Grand Tetons, where we did, in 2 days, we did 16 miles of hiking on some very rough terrain. These things have seen many, many, many seasons like this, and they just keep hanging on and holding up. They're like Jeeps for your feet. They are super, the traction on them is awesome. When we go down dirty, loose rock hills, I never have slippage issues or problems, so they've just been excellent shoes. They've held up well. The tread on them is awesome, and when these wear out, I'm just going to get another pair of these.
Cool.
As we put our shoes back on.
Shoes back on. All right, so item number 2, socks. So once again, I'll be honest, I have sensitive feet, so comfort is very, very important for me. I am a huge Smart Wools guy. Why? They breathe, they insulate very, very well, they got great cushioning, and they're just overall a great company. I picked these amazing Colorado Smart Wool socks up from REI recently. I'm also currently wearing a pair, I don't know if you can kind of see, with my shoes, because they're just overall, they're a phenomenal sock. They do really, really well in hiking conditions, kind of keeping that moisture away from your foot, but at the same time keeping your foot nice and warm in colder environments. Mike's a big features guy. It's kind of hard to see.
I'm not lifting my leg up, I'm not that flexible, but I'm wearing ankle socks that are features. I really like features. First off, they're super comfortable. They're a little bit thicker than your average sock, but they create a good cushion, and that's great on long hikes. In addition, they also moisture wick properties in the blend of fabrics that they use, and that's really helpful. And then they use a seamless sock, which is nice, because I don't know if on cheaper socks you think about it much, but that seam in there, your feet are always rubbing against that seam. And so a seamless sock, when you have a lot of miles on your feet, is actually a lot more comfortable.
Cool.
All right, number 3, hydration. And wouldn't you know, I'd love to show you my Osprey hydration pack that I wear all the time, but our wives decided to go hiking today, and they're wearing both of our hydration packs right now because we remembered to have ours available. They did not remember to have theirs. So I'm not saying I'm blaming them, but I'm blaming them. However, hydration, it's super important. It's really one of those obvious things, but I've done it myself. I've thought, oh, it's not too hot today. I'll go on a hike. I'll grab a plastic bottle of water, or my little, my Hydro Flask Trail Series, and take it with me. And before I know it, I'm hotter than I thought I would be. I've gone through more water than I thought I would be. I'm out longer than I thought I would be. And when that happens, you don't want to be thinking, dang, I only brought 22, 32 ounces of water with me and I could have had my 84 ounce hydration pack on my back. That also can carry all this gear we're going to talk about today. So a good hydration pack, I personally recommend the Osprey Scarab 30. It's a good backpack day hike design with a really good bladder inside of it. And what are you using?
Oh, yeah, right when you bring it up. So I've got the Duro15.
Is that Osprey?
It is Osprey. It's the Osprey Duro15. And so this is an actual trail running pack. It's their largest series. And the reason why I chose that was because I wanted something pretty universal that I could take out on my mountain bike, trail running and hiking with the kids. It's got a lot of storage capacity in it, in addition to having an amazing Osprey hydration bladder that I really, really like. I really like the design feature of how you can fill it and clean it out. You know, instead of the Camelback where you have to open up the little circular port versus a top where it has a slider and then it opens up. You can stuff, get some ice in there if you really, really want to keep some cool water or cool hydration in there. But yeah, I love the Duro15. Highly recommend it. I really enjoy his Scarab. Yeah. He allowed me to borrow it to go out on a short little hike. Very, very comfortable. Osprey just makes good quality stuff that once again is backed by a lifetime warranty, which is clearly what we like.
Yeah. If you're shopping for these types of things like hydration packs, I said this in a previous video and I'm going to say it again because it's true. In the past, I've cut corners with price. I'll go on Amazon and see some no-name company that has a hydration pack that looks like an Osprey or looks like a Camelback. I'll order it for 15 or 20 bucks thinking, woohoo, I got a great deal. It's got lots of great reviews. And then I get it. It's got no instructions inside of it, terrible packaging, cheap seams and stitching and components to it. And it's like, you do get what you pay for. And so I've learned over the years, pay for the good thing the first time, and I know it might hurt that first time, but it'll last you much longer and you'll be much happier you did. And Osprey is no exception to that rule. I've gone with cheap hydration packs and I've gone with Ospreys. And Ospreys, they're not even that expensive, but they're a very quality brand.
Yeah, the buy once, cry once motto stands true for me personally. I do not. I typically spend a lot of money on my gear, and I do that intentionally because I research the companies, find out about them and just their quality and their design. I'm the guy that goes into the store and pulls it off the shelf and will take it apart, try it on, maybe kind of toss it around a little bit and pick it back up, stuff in it, pull stuff back out. So
what he's saying is the security's watching him the whole time.
That's right, yes. So I'm a cry once, buy once kind of guy. And Osprey is definitely a company that I will always recommend because they just make quality products. And once again, they're backed by a lifetime warranty.
Cool. So, number 4. This is one that I know gets overlooked often because many times on the trail people will ask me for directions or if I know what checkpoint we're at or how far along to the next milestone or trailhead. So number 4 is a map. And map can come in many forms. So CJ here, we just happen to have this laying around because we're always at the parks out here. And you've got a lot of options when it comes to a map for your hike. So let's just start with the most obvious, our phone. We never forget is our phone. And our phone has the ability to use apps like AllTrails and some hiking apps and GPS, Gaia GPSs. There's a lot of apps out there that will give you very detailed topo, GPS-driven maps that you can follow real-time as you're going. There's a couple caveats to that though. One is you got to think about cell service where you're at. You can't assume you're going to have cell service the whole time unless you're hiking downtown Denver, which I'm not sure what you're doing. But if you're out there hiking for real, you're probably going to lose your cell service. So beforehand, I always download the trails that I'm going to be hiking on. I download an offload data file an offline data file that allows me to still use my phone's GPS because it doesn't need data for GPS. It just needs a signal of the sky. And I can still follow real time on a map where I'm at and not have to rely on data service. So if you're going to use your phone, that's awesome. It's right in your pocket. It's easy to do and the apps are free and inexpensive. Just make sure you download that offline copy of the map. That way you don't get out there, need your map, and because you have no data, you can't look at it. Some alternative options to that are at the trailhead, grabbing a paper map, or where you pay your fee to get into the park, grabbing the paper map and just throwing it in your bag. It weighs nothing, it's flat, there's no excuse not to have one with you. And then CJ is holding up his phone because not only the apps if you're at that trailhead and maybe they're out of the maps, you can snap a picture of the trailhead map.
That's right.
And at a minimum, it's going to give you some terrain associations, some landmarks, some things to be aware of. And at a minimum, if you can't get anything else done, you can use the sun's position, east and west, and that picture of a map to at least kind of guide yourself back if you need to. So apps on your phone, paper maps, offline maps, and pictures of maps will all get it done. All those are basically free, and you know, everybody can get it done.
I think the important thing that Mike's hitting on here too that we need to discuss is always having a backup to the backup. Preparation is key. You don't want to get out on the trailhead and not be prepared, because another thing that Mike didn't talk about is what's on his wrist, right? So he uses the Garmin GPS, the Instinct model. My wife also has a Garmin Fenix 5. Of course, I would show it to you, but currently she's out on the trail using it. But we always have backups. Even just simply taking a phone out, even if you do get the paper version, you know, and taking a quick snapshot with your phone, it's a backup system. You know, paper, backup, GPS, backup.
All these are free and accessible.
Yeah, yes.
Except for the watch.
Yeah,
We're going to pay a little bit for the watch.
Yeah, and a GPS, it costs money.
And maybe we'll do a video on it down the road, but the watch does have a lot of good features. You can download maps for the watch. You can use a breadcrumb feature that basically will track you back to where you came from. If you get totally lost, your watch can guide you back. So it's a pretty cool feature. So next we'll go up on food and snacks, and CJ is very well versed in this topic, and he's usually schooling me on it, so I'll let him share it with you.
All right, so snacks. So I wrote an article, and we'll put the link in the description below on some snacks you can take out for your family. Where I talked about really kind of 3 important snack options. Some RX bars are great for the kids. Pro bars are fantastic as well. Trail mix. Reason why I love trail mix the most is because it does have M&Ms in it, and the kids love chocolate, and so it kind of keeps them on point. And you know, it also gives them a little bit of the protein from the nuts that are in there as well. And then of course, you know, these little mini Kind bars are great. So let's talk real quick about snacks though, right? So these are great. These are great options if you're out on a short hike. But let's say that you kind of want to go a little deeper, right? You want to go a little further.
A full day out.
A full day out, and you really want that true meal. So, you know, dehydrated and freeze-dried meals are a thing, and they're great for backpacking. And I came across this company, Good to Go. They use real food, real ingredients. Their shelf life is not as extensive as some of the other companies out there, but that's because they're using real food. And these are just great options. A lot of calories. These specifically are gluten-free. You know, this Mexican quinoa bowl.
They're super carb dense, which is great.
Vegan, you know, they're vegan, gluten-free options. I'm not opposed to eating meat. I love meat. But, you know, once again, you know, these are just great, healthy options that you can take out on the trail with you. And so in order to do this, though, right, what do you got to have? Well, you got to have a way to boil some water to get into here to allow it to absorb and cook or rehydrate itself. So we'll kind of get a little bit deeper into it.
That may be obvious,
Yeah.
Or not obvious, but what he's basically saying is that these act as your bowl, your plate,
That's right.
kind of your cooking source. So when you heat that water, and he'll go over that, but everything happens right in here. You can eat out of this, and it can handle the boiling water. So there's no need to pack bowls and pots with you. You just need this bag and what he's going to go over here.
Yeah, right. So it's a resealable bag, which is really, really cool because you just dump the boiling water in, reseal it back up, and let it sit for about 20 minutes. But so what I use when I go out, because you know I've got a large family and we like to eat. So on our longer hikes, I'll always bring this. But we've got the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe. Very, very small. The cool thing about the Deluxe model is that it has the self-igniting feature on it. So open this bad boy up. If I can get it open. Oh, because I'm clamped down there. Right? So you got your little MSR propane. I don't know if you can kind of see. I'm trying to zoom in here. Maybe. There it is. So, a little self-igniting feature here. Just crank it on. You'll hear that propane come. Give it a little, and look at that. We've got fire.
No match needed.
Boom. So, what I do is because this is such a small design, takes up so little space in your pack. Old school canteen cup. We've already got our hydration packs filled to the brim with plenty of water for us and our family. Simply pour water in there, boil this up. Once it's boiling, dump it in, close it up. Sea to Summit spoon, very, very long. Kind of zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Maybe. There we go. Sea to Summit spoon, very, very long. As you can tell, not going to get your fingers all messy and dirty as you reach into the bag to get out some food. Kind of share the spoon amongst the family, and then back on the trail you go. Like I said, really quick, simple setup. Once everything's packed in, I can actually fit it into the canteen cup, which just means it takes up less space in my pack. Great food option. All different types of flavors, highly recommend it. But once again, this is if you're going out on a much longer hike where you're going to need to put some calories in your body, and maybe snacking on some bars is not the best option for you.
Sweet. So moving on the list, number 6. So that's when we start talking about first aid. This is another thing, kind of like an offline map that people know they need but don't always get it done. So many times when we hike, we may be with our families, we may be with one person, or we may be alone. And the one thing you need to remember is that when you're in backcountry, when you're out there doing your own thing in the wilderness, it's awesome, we're out there, but we're our own first responders. That's just how life works. There's no ambulance that's going to drop in and save you if you fall off a little small cliff, you break something, you tweak something, you cut yourself. You are your own medic in those situations. Many times you're not going to have cell phone service either, and so you can't just rely on the fact that, oh, I fell, I can't get up, I'll call for help. Well, you're probably not going to be able to call depending on where you're at. And at a minimum, let's say you can call, let's say you have cell service. Let's be realistic about those time frames. How long is it going to take for you to make a call to 911, request some emergency help, and then find the resources that can use whatever off-roading equipment or airlifting or bike or whatever they're going to use to get to you? Isolated hiking trails are often narrow, small, and in rough terrain areas, so to think that the ambulance is just going to cruise up and grab you is not very practical thinking. And so the way we mitigate that risk is we bring first aid kits for ourselves. Now, you're not going to be able to perform surgery on yourself out there, but you can stop bleeding, you can apply pressure, you can do basic life-saving measures. So, airway, breathing, circulation, those are kind of the principles, cornerstones of first aid and keeping yourself alive. And so we have a couple options here from 2 brands that we both own the stuff. This is all stuff we own. No one sends us this stuff. This is stuff that we appreciate and we use it because it has a functional purpose. I'll let CJ go over the VSSL in a second. I'll just touch on the MyFac. MyMedic. MyMedic is a company. CJ's gamed up on their history much more better than mine. Actually, why don't you talk? I'm going to cut this out.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about MyMedic.
So the MyMedic, right? So this company was designed from a tragic accident that occurred in their family. They had a family member that was in a really bad car accident, out kind of in a hard to reach location, and 40 minutes later their family member had bled out. But I think the most shocking thing to their story is that there was some bystanders that were around watching this happen that didn't have any kind of first aid supplies on them to help this family member out, right? So they got together and they wanted to give back. They wanted to make sure that this didn't happen to anybody else. They wanted to start a company where they could provide quality USA-made products, first aid products to anybody out there that wants to get out and adventure. Because at the end of the day, kind of like what Mike said, when you get out into these locations, you're your first responder, or you may be someone else's first responder. And I think that's very important, right?
That's a good point.
I've been on the trail several times where someone's tried to do something and they've gotten hurt and they don't have anything. And of course, they're fortunate, right, that I stumble upon them and I'm like, oh crap, okay, let me assess you, let me see what I can do. And I pull out my kit. Just recently, VSSL, I carry this with me every time I go out on a hike or a mountain biking ride. I was in a mountain biking accident. I had this with me, thank God, because I went over the side of a small little cliff and damaged my shins up pretty good, my hip, my foot, had some scrapes, and really I was able to pull out my VSSL kit, right? That's nice and metal, designed from a mag light flashlight, so it's very, very sturdy. and I used it. You know, I pulled out some ibuprofen that I had in there, took out some antiseptic wipes and cleaned myself up a little bit, bandaged up, put it back in my pack, and got back on the trail. So, you know, I think while it is about you and protecting you and your family, it's also about helping out those others on the trail that may need your help, and not just on the trails, but in life in general. You never know when you might stumble upon a car accident where someone's in some bad shape and you need to be that responder. You know, I talked about it in a video, which we'll link below in the VSSL, where I went into a little further detail. And the first time I ever had to use this was from a lady that lived in my neighborhood that had a bad accident who flipped over her handlebars. And luckily, I had my daughter with me, and I said, Emma, grab the first aid kit out of the glove box. She pulled it out. I went out there. I assessed her. Got her squared away, got her in the car, and then my daughter kind of walked her bike back to the house. We got her back to her home, where she could get a little bit further evaluated and further care to assess that situation. So yeah, first aid kits, no brainer. VSSL, the other cool feature on them, they got a flashlight on one end and then a precision compass on the other, kind of going back to the maps and the GPS. You know, you got a compass. This is a phenomenal product, highly recommend it. They also work with a not-for-profit organization for special need children, which is near and dear to my heart because I have a special needs son. So yeah, highly recommend it. Mike, over to you.
So we've kind of touched on all the reasons why first aid kits are important. CJ touched on the history of My Medic. If you kind of open up their pouch and take a look inside, it's really thoughtfully done. They have a lot of things in here that are basic: pressure bandages, thermal blankets, whistles, splints, antiseptic, tweezers, thermometers, gauze, bandages. So these are really well done. These are pouches that are made with the intent of giving you, that first responder, the ability to kind of mitigate some risk when it comes to personal injury, whether you're out on the trail, on the side of the road. I don't know about CJ, but I keep a medic kit just like this in the truck. It's attached to my driver's seat. It's got a tourniquet on it that's on the outside. The majority of car accidents where people pass away, it's because of the loss of blood before first responders can get there. So, but you know, in a prior life for many years, I was a police officer. CJ is active duty military, and so we do a lot of training and we see a lot of real world examples where first aid is a big deal. And there's nothing worse than being on scene, seeing that person going through that trauma, and there's nothing you can do. At a minimum, use what you have around you. You have to get creative, go ahead and get creative. But as a backup and as a good precautionary measure, definitely look into first aid kits.
And real quick, so I want to touch on this. So the other cool thing about My Medic is they're not just about providing you the supplies, they're also about giving you the training and the guides. So I'm going to kind of zoom in on this. This is a cool little guide. See if we can, is it going to zoom in? Maybe.
Hold it still, it'll eventually catch it.
Okay, that didn't really work. But this is a first aid and survival. It's the Stay Alive guide. It's a little booklet that I actually got for free with the purchase when I purchased my first aid kit from their company. And man, this thing has everything in it. And it is a great guide that you can read through, because guess what? You can own a first aid kit, but if you don't know how to use the supplies, then what's the point, right? So phenomenal guide. I keep it inside here. Sorry I jumped off camera so I could grab it because I pulled it out earlier to go through some things with my daughter. But I will tell you, if you have a first aid kit, please ensure you know where everything's at and how to use each item in your first aid kit, because that is extremely important. And My Medic is an amazing company that's providing you supplies, but also giving you the tools that you need in order to make those supplies go to good use.
Yeah, so I think we've touched on first aid plenty, but
yeah,
I think it's a good thing to touch on, because for all the reasons we've already pointed out, it's one of those deals that it's not a big deal until it is, and then you really need it, and you need to know how to use it.
Sure.
All right, so that's the first aid. All right, the last item on the list, probably not the most fun item on the list, but that is your clothing. Hiking in the outdoors brings a series of challenges, right? So you have the weather elements, you have your personal temperature, and the increase in your body temperature depending on how strenuous the hike is. You have the climate you're in. And so the way you layer needs to be thoughtfully done. You need to have options, right? So you need to have moisture wicking clothing. You need to have the ability to use multiple layers if needed, or remove layers if needed. And so CJ's probably a bit more geared up to tell you about that, but essentially layers, moisture wicking, and the ability to adapt with the climate is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, cotton, you know, unfortunately, cotton is a killer in certain situations when you're out there. I personally, I'm kind of a Lululemon guy. I know it's more of a brand for women, but I do like Lululemon. I wear a lot of their undershirts because they are moisture wicking, and they're also odor resistant. And then I always layer up. And you know, as a former skin cancer survivor, I did an article. We'll link it below on some of the things that I wear while I'm out on the trail to kind of protect myself from the sun, because you know, when you're out there, it's about the environment in general, right? So that's sun, that's climate, that's temperature, it's everything. So, you know, I'm a huge fan in Patagonia in this fleece. I always have this with me as kind of my warm layer because I'm on the skinny side, and so I get cold. I get cold relatively easily, and so this is kind of like my go-to. And then I've got some Lululemon products that I wear in addition to the stuff that helps keep me protected from the sun, clothing-wise. Got some Patagonia Capilene long sleeve, and then I've got Free Fly makes this amazing kind of bamboo. It's a bamboo material hoodie that has a 50 SPF protection on it. And you know, like I said, like what Mike said, layering is important. And then also protection, checking the weather forecast. Hey, is it going to rain? Is it forecasted to rain? If not, are there rain clouds around that might pop up unexpectedly while we're out on the trail? And just making sure that you have a way to protect yourself is extremely important. Also, always have a hat. I think that's important. I don't always wear a hat, but I always have one with me because this is also a good way to kind of protect yourself from the sun, but also, you know, shade as well. Keep your face and your head somewhat cool. You can always pour water on, pour a little bit of water on this, or if you're by a stream, run your hat in the stream and put it on your head. Keep you nice and regulate your body temperature. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many great uses for always bringing a hat with you as well.
Cool. Well, I think we covered the 7 items that are essential to your hiking trip. While these are not the most all-encompassing list you can come up with, we wanted to stick to some cornerstones that kind of covered all the bases. You could go a little bit lighter in some areas, you could go a little bit heavier in some areas, but based on your climate, your region, time of year, your own personal ability, a lot of factors come into play that can make you adjust this list and add to it or take from it. So it's just kind of a cornerstone example for you to use and kind of build from, especially if you're new to hiking. This is a good place just to start. And so everything we talked about, we might have just rambled on for 15 minutes, but if you look at everything we've discussed here, aside from the clothing, all this would fit in a small day pack, a small hydration pack. You could put all of this in it, and it wouldn't be heavy. None of this is super heavy. The heaviest thing you would have on you is your water. And that's going to get lighter as you go because you're going to be drinking it. So everything we brought up here, what I would consider essential, it can pack up in a small day pack, and it can at least cover the basics when it comes to essential hiking gear. As far as moving on a bit beyond the basics, let's just talk about a couple real quick additional items depending on the type of hike you're doing that can actually make your hike go better.
All right, so water filtration. For me, Life Straw is key. Super cheap, like 20 bucks. The cool thing about this is it's like good for 1,000 gallons. And man, the kids, every time you're out on the trail and we come by like a creek or a river, they're like, Dad, let me get that Life Straw, so they can go down and open it up and put it in the water and just for fun, right? So this is important because you never know, right? If you run out of water, good backup source. There's other different products out there. I also have a Sawyer Squeeze, with some collection bags which help kind of filter some water out as well. But this is extremely lightweight. I always keep this in my vehicle as a backup. So if we're out and we want to go, on a trail hike or something, I can always throw it in my bag and go. Paracord. We both have military backgrounds. We're both very versed in paracord. Go get some. If you don't have paracord in your repertoire, highly recommend it. Many different uses. It's extremely durable, extremely strong. You can even break this down and pull the inside fibers out. If you really need to get some more cordage. But yes, go get some. Always carry it on you.
Strong, durable, versatile. You can't go wrong with it. A whistle. Super simple item, super basic, super lightweight. You can put it in a pocket, put it in your bag, put it on your neck. Doesn't matter, but it's got a lot of useful purposes. Dangerous wildlife nearby, making a lot of noise. It does that. You're immobilized, hurt, can't get help. Call for help with a whistle. It helps people who are in the vicinity hear you. You're lost. Same example. You can use this when there's search parties out there or people nearby. A whistle can help you be found. So notifications, safety, dangerous wildlife. This does a lot of things, and it's one of those things that's dirt cheap. It's easy to take with you, and it can make or break a trip.
Yeah, and I personally have enough of these for my kids as well. So, you know, if for some reason, which it's never happened, but if for some reason we were to get separated, you know, they can easily notify me where they're at. All right, next on the list is a Leatherman. I cannot stress the importance of always having a Leatherman. You should always probably have one of these in your vehicle. It's just so universal. So many tools on here that you can use. It's just a great resource to have. It's like the Paracord. Great resource, multiple use. Highly recommend a Leatherman or some type of tool. Gerber makes some very similar products to this as well. It doesn't really matter, but a multi-tool, extremely important. And then last but not least, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, sure. So we will go with the headlamp. Obvious reasons, headlamp provides light. So you may be heading out for a day hike and think to yourself, well, I don't need a headlamp. And that may be true. You might know the route, you might know the area, you might know how to get back, and you might know, because you've been there multiple times, that you can be in and out in 2 hours. However, you know, just coming back from a long trip up in Wyoming, I can tell you that some hikes, if you're not familiar with them, can end up much longer than you're anticipating, just due to terrain, energy levels, supplies. Things can, you know, things happen. People want to rest. I hike with my kids, so they would take more breaks than I would need. And so what could be a 4-hour hike could easily turn into a 6 or 8 hour hike, depending on all those, you know, conditions. And so when that happens, you can find yourself, depending on what time you started, in a position where the sun's going down and you're still out there a little bit further away than you expected. And having a headlamp is an excellent way to be seen on the trail, to see the trail, to light your way as you go, to look for your supplies as it gets dark. And it's a good visibility tool for other people in the vicinity. You can't go wrong. This is a Black Diamond, correct? Yeah, this is a Black Diamond headlamp.
Yeah.
Black Diamond makes really quality stuff if you're not familiar with them. Check it out. We can link these below. But really, any headlamp will do. And as far as the additional items, this is a good one to consider.
And so real quick, so all these items that we just discussed, you know, him and I, we both keep a lot of this in our vehicles. Because for me personally, I'm kind of, you know, my family and I, we're very kind of minimalistic to a certain degree. When we do buy things, I always think about, okay, what is this purpose of this item? Is it a one-use item? Is it a multi-use item? I personally buy things that are multi-use items, and having my headlamp inside my truck is important. If you break down on the side of the road, or if somebody breaks down on the side of the road and it's at nighttime, or you need to help somebody change a tire, whatever the case may be, you know, having something like this is great. Right, so you can put it on your head, provide the light source that you need to do whatever it is that needs to get done, and then move on. And it's the same thing with everything that I pack in my bag. Always has multi-purpose, multi-use things. Bless you. And that's why it's important to do the prep work and understand what it is that you're packing, you know, and the uses that you can put into it. You know, one thing that we didn't mention that I definitely want to hit on. So hydration. Oh, yeah. So I did an article. I don't know if I've published it yet. I don't think I have. On hydration.
Whenever it posts, we'll link it down.
We'll link it down. But none. So this is the rest and recovery for at nighttime. Because go figure, our wives out on the hike right now have my sport caffeine one. These are money. You drop a tablet in, 16 ounces of water, gives you some great electrolytes, a little bit of caffeine in there in case you need it. But it also breaks up that flavor profile for the kids, right? That are, you know, like, hey, yeah, Dad, I don't want to drink water again. I want a little something different. And these are phenomenal. We've been using these products now since my wife's done multiple marathons and half marathons. I've done triathlons and duathlons and some running races as well. And time again, we always find ourselves going back to this. Liquid hydration is another good one, or liquid IV, sorry. Is another good product that we recently discovered that we picked up at Whole Foods. But none is just you know, like I said, one tablet, 16 ounces of water, and you know, kind of breaks it up and gives you some.
Don't let
Different
him
flavors.
saying things like triathlon and sports. This is not just for athletes.
That's right.
Let's say you and your friends go camping. You guys have your, you know, campfire, a couple drinks, your dinner, you go to bed, you wake up dehydrated, but you want to go hiking and mountain biking the next day.
Yeah.
This is a great thing to pop in your water, your bladder, or your, you know, your hydro flask or whatever. Hydration is just key. And whether you're dehydrated from having a drink the night before or you're dehydrated from hiking all day, either way, this is small, light, cheap, keep it in there, and it's going to keep your body in a better position to kind of tackle whatever activities you have. It's important to note on all of this, sometimes people get overwhelmed in the outdoor community because they're looking at getting into a hobby and they're seeing price sticker shock, right? So everything we've talked about today is not very expensive, and almost everything on here can be had for a very affordable price or an alternative, you know, price. Probably the most expensive thing we even have here is the medic kits, but these are quality medic kits. These aren't just thrown together bags of Band-Aids. But with that said, everything here is essential, everything here is important to have, and everything here is affordable. None of this is priced out fancy stuff. So definitely give it a look if you're looking into getting into hiking, or maybe you're going on a big trip and you're not sure what to take. Hopefully this has provided you some good guidance, and we'll see you out on the trail. Thanks for stopping by.